Hi, this is part 2 of the Reeve's tale. We're starting at 4107. John and Alan have been chasing their lost horse all day, and now it is nighttime. Weary and wet as a beast is in the rain, come hapless John, and with him comes Alan. Alas, said John, the day that I was born, now are we driven to contempt and to scorn. Our grain is stolen. Men will call us fools, both the warden and all of our fellows, and namely the miller well away. Thus laments John as he goes by the way, toward the mill, and the horse Bayard in his hand. The miller sitting by the fire he found, for it was night, and further they could not go. But for the love of God they ask him for lodging, and for refreshment, for their cash. The miller said in reply, If there be any such as it is, yet shall you have your share. My house is small, but you have learned the art of logic. You know how by logical arguments to make a place. A mile broad out of 20 feet of space. Let's see now if this place may suffice, or make it large by speech, as is your custom. Now, Simon, said John, by Saint Cuthbert, thou art always joking, and this is nicely answered. I have heard, said, man shall take one of two things, such as he finds, or take such as he brings. But especially, I pray thee, host dear, get us some food and drink, and make us good cheer. And we will pay truly at the full. With empty hand men may lure no hawks. Lo, here is our silver, ready to spend. This miller into town his daughters sent, for ale and bread, and roasted them a goose, and tied up their horse, it should no more go loose. And in his own bedroom made them a bed, with sheets and with blankets nicely spread, not 10 feet or 12 from his own bed. His daughter had a bed all by herself, right in the same chamber side by side. It might be no better, and do you know the cause why? There was no larger lodging in the place. They sup, and they converse to entertain themselves, and drink ever strong ale of the best quality. About midnight they went to bed. Well has this miller varnished his head, drank heavily. Full pale he was for drunkenness, and not red. He belches, and he speaks through the nose, as if he had hoarseness, or had a cold. To bed he goes, and with him goes his wife. She was as cheerful and jolly as any jay. So was her jolly whistle well whetted. The cradle at her bed's feet is set, to rock and give the child to suck. And when all that was in the crock was drunk, to bed went the daughter right away. To bed goes Alan and also John. There was no more, they needed no sleeping potion. This miller has imbibed so much ale that he snorts like a horse in his sleep. And of his tale behind he took no heed. His wife bore him a bass accompaniment very loud. One could hear their snoring 2 furlongs away. The wench snores also to keep them company. Alan the clerk, who heard this melody, he poked John and said, Sleepest thou? Heardest thou ever such a song before now? Lo, such a compline (even service) is made by them all. May a wild fire upon their bodies fall. Who heard ever such an amazing thing? Yes, they shall have the best, i.e. the worst, of a bad ending. This long night there comes to me no sleep, but yet no matter, all shall be for the best. For John, said he, as ever I may thrive, if I can, yon wench will I screw. Some redress the law has shaped for us. For John there is a law that says thus, that if a man in one point is injured, then that in another he shall be relieved. Our grain is stolen, truly, it cannot be denied, and we have had a hard time all this day. And since I shall have no recompense for my loss, I will have satisfaction. By God's soul, it shall be no other way. This John answered, Alan, be careful. The miller is a perilous man, he said, and if he is out of his sleep suddenly awoke, He might do injury to us both. Allen answered, I reckon him not worth a fly. And up he rises, and by the winch he crept. This winch lay on her back and fast slept, until he was so near before she could see him. It was too late to cry out, and shortly to speak they were together. Now play, Allen, for I will speak of John. This John lies still 5 minutes or so, and to himself he laments and feels sorry. Alas, said he, this is a wicked trick. Now may I say that I am nothing but a fool. Yet has my fellow something for his harm? He has the miller's daughter in his arm. He took a risk and has accomplished his purpose. And I lie like a sack of rubbish in my bed. And when this trick is told another day, I shall be considered a fool, a weakling. I will arise and chance it by my faith. The timid one is unlucky, thus people say. And up he rose, and quietly he went to the cradle, and in his hand seized it, and carried it quietly to the foot of his bed. Okay, so what is John doing? He moved the baby's cradle from the parents' bed to his bed. He must be up to something. Soon after this, the wife stopped her snoring, and awoke and went out to pee, and came back and began to miss her cradle, and groped here and there, but she found none. Alas, said she, I almost gone wrong. I almost gone to the clerk's bed. Ay, bless me, then I would have made a mess of it. And so forth she goes until she found the cradle. She gropes always further with her hand, and found the bed, and thought all was well, because the cradle by it stood, and did not know where she was, for it was dark. But gently she crept into the clerk, and lies full still, and would have gone to sleep within a moment, since John the clerk leapt up, and on his good wife he lays on vigorously. He had not had so merry an experience for a long time. He stabs hard and deep as if he were mad. This jolly life have these two clerks led, until the third cock began to sing an hour before dawn. Okay, so John tricked the wife into his bed and had his way with her. Allen grew weary at the time of dawn, for he had labored all the night long, and said, Farewell, Melanie, sweet creature. The day is come, I may no longer remain here, but evermore, wherever I walk or ride, I am thine own clerk, as I may prosper. Now, dear sweetheart, said she, go farewell. But before thou go, one thing I will tell thee. When thou go homeward by the mill, right at the entry behind the door, thou shalt find a cake of half a bushel, that was made of thine own meal, which I helped my father to steal. And, good sweetheart, God save and keep thee. And with that word she almost began to weep. Allen uprises and thought, before it dawns, I will go creep in by my fellow, and found the cradle with his hand right away. By God, thought he, I have gone all wrong. My head is dizzy from my work tonight. That makes me go not right. I know well by the cradle I have gone wrong. Here lies the miller and his wife also. And forth he goes in the name of 20 devils, unto the bed where the miller lay. He expected to have crept in by his fellow John, and in by the miller he crept right then, and caught him by the neck, and quietly he spoke. He said, Thou, John, thou pig's head, awake. Okay, Alan thinks he's in bed with John, but he's actually in bed with the sleeping miller. And caught him by the neck and quietly spoke, the pig's awake. For Christ's soul, and here a real joke, for by that Lord that is called St. James, I have 3 times in this short night screwed the miller's daughter flat on her back, while they hast like a coward been terrified. Yes, false scoundrel, said the miller, hast thou done so? Ah, false traitor, false clerk, said he, thou shalt be dead by God's worthiness. Who dared be so bold to degrade my who dared to be so bold to degrade my daughter who has come from such noble lineage, And by the Adam's apple he caught Allen, and he seized him angrily in turn, and on the nose he smote him with his fist. Down ran the bloody stream upon his breast, and on the floor, with nose and mouth badly broken, they wallow as two pigs in a bag. And up they go, and down again straightway, until the miller stumbled on a stone, and down he fell backward upon his wife, who knew nothing of this foolish strife, for she was fallen asleep a little bit with John the clerk, who had been awake all night. And with the fall out of her sleep she started up. "Help! Holy cross of Bromholm," she said. "In your hands, Lord, to thee I call. Oh, in your hands, Lord, to thee I call. Awake, Simon. The fiend has fallen on me. My heart is broken. Help! I am as good as dead. There lies one upon my belly and one on my head. Help, Simpkin, for the false clerks fight." This John started up and as fast as ever he could, and grasps by the walls to and fro to find a staff, and she leapt up also, and knew the interior of the house better than did John. And by the wall a staff she found right away, and saw a little glimmering of a light, for at a hole in shone the moon bright, and by that light she saw both the two of them, but surely she did not know who was who. But she saw a white thing in her eye, and when she did espy this white thing, she thought the clerk had worn a nightcap, and with the staff she drew ever nearer and nearer, and intended to have hit this Allen squarely, and smote the miller on the bald skull. Okay, so she saw his bald head as a white thing, and she hit it with a stick, but the bald guy is the miller. It's her husband. So down he goes and cried, "Help, I die." These clerks beat him well and let him lie, and dressed themselves and took their horse straight away, and also their meal, and on their way they go. And at the mill yet they took their cake of half a bushel flour, very well baked. Wow, so they beat up the miller, slept with his wife, slept with his daughter, took their grain, and took the grain that was stolen from them in the form of a cake. Thus is the proud miller well beaten, and has lost the charge for grinding of the wheat, and paid for the supper every bit of Allen and of John, who beat him well. His wife is screwed, and his daughter also. Lo, this is how it is when a miller is false. And therefore this proverb is said very truly, one who does evil should not expect good. A trickster shall himself be tricked. And God that sits high in majesty, save all this company, high ranking and low, every one. Thus have I repaid the miller in my tale. All right, so the Reeve gets his revenge by telling a silly story about a silly miller. What is the word for screwed? Swived. All right.